Social Security is broken. That's not exactly a hot take. Lately, there's been a lot of talk that the system will go insolvent in 2033. There are multiple ways to stop this from happening. Today, I'm going to outline 3 of the current proposals that are making the rounds, and we'll see how they might impact you. A quick bit of background. When I say the system will be insolvent, what I mean is that Social Security actuaries are saying that there won't be enough money coming into the trust fund to cover the money scheduled to go out. At last look, that was as of March 2033. That's when they'll run out of money. As it currently stands, benefits would be reduced at that point to 74% of what the planned levels are. In my opinion, there's basically zero chance that lawmakers are going to allow current benefits to be cut across the board. The question is, something's got to be done to fix it. What will it be? Here are the 3 possibilities that I see. Possibility number 1, they could raise the wage cap on benefits. So right now, the current wage maximum is $168,600. That means once you earn above that level, you no longer pay Social Security tax, which is 6.2% of your pay. Your employer also puts in 6.2%, or if you're self-employed, you fund the whole boat, 11.4% of your pay, up to $168,600. That's not an insignificant amount of money. That means you're paying almost $21,000 per year into the system right now. Now, here's a thing that a lot of people miss. Earning above that amount doesn't entitle you to a larger check. So sometimes folks get all worked up. You don't pay beyond that point. But because by statute, that's the maximum, that also means that that applies to the maximum benefit. The example here is this. If you make $168,600 this year or $1 million, you pay the same amount into the system and you get the same amount out of the system. It basically stops at the maximum each year. One of the proposals specifically put out by a congresswoman from Minnesota is that they would start taxing folks above that level, above the $168,000 level. That would bring more money into the system. The Office of Social Security reviewed the proposal, and they said that that one change would fix the system for another 20 years or so. It would be until 2054 before we had issues meeting benefits again. Now, as far as the likelihood of raising taxes on high earners or doing away with the earnings cap altogether and continuing to tax no matter the level of income, it's possible. It's probably not the most likely solution in my opinion. Now we'll move on to number 2 that I've seen recently. Now this one comes from analysis at the Cato Institute, which is a Washington think tank. This isn't actually a bill that's floating around out there, but their suggestion is to reduce benefits for high wage earners. Now, listen carefully to what I just said there. They're not talking about adding a tax. They're talking about taking away benefits from people who are already getting checks. For what it's worth, I think there's effectively zero chance that something like this would happen, and it's not presently a bill that's submitted anywhere. This is just something that was thought up by a Washington think tank, but there have been some folks who have voiced support for this sort of thing. The thinking behind why they would do that is if you had a completely maxed out benefit, meaning you hit the earnings cap every year for 35 years, so you're entitled to the largest Social Security benefit there is, and you were age 70 this year, that's $4,873 per month. That's a big Social Security check. The premise is that's more than a social safety net, especially for somebody who received maximum levels of income for 35 years. My objection to that is this. The system already pays less of a benefit relative to the money paid in if you're a high wage earner due to those bend points. It's a progressive system. The more you pay in, the less return you get per dollar paid in. I'll come back to that with an example to explain in just a second. The second thing that they contend is that the greater good is done by reducing benefits for high wage earners as opposed to raising the amount of Social Security tax that is brought in, raising that 6.2% that everyone pays, simply because it would impact fewer people negatively if they just took from the high wage earners. The last piece of this is that they state if Social Security were to be as it was originally meant, as a safety net for seniors to avoid poverty, that benefits should not be as high as they are for those high wage earners. Here's my issue with that. The system is set up, the way that it works is that those folks have paid far more into the system because of their wages. It's a wage-based program. They're also receiving a lower benefit relative to the amount that they've paid in. And here's the example I told you about. So this comes from information from the Urban Institute. They did a study last year on Social Security and Medicare. I'll pop it up on the screen. This table shows a 65-year-old male with what they classify as low earnings, $30,000 a year. For someone who would turn 65, let's look at year 2045. That would make them 44 years old today. Over their lifetime, they're expected to pay $216,000 into the system. They're expected to get out $317,000 from the system over their lifetime. That's not a great return on investment, but it's positive. So now let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Here's someone of the same age who has max Social Security earnings. Now, as of the year of the study, it was around $160,000 a year. They're expected to pay in $1.182 million. They're expected to pull out $847,000. Forget about return on investment. Social Security is expected to lose them money. They're going to pay in more than what they actually pull out. They're essentially subsidizing the lower earner due to the bend points. That's the way the system is, but to move the goalposts for those folks, especially those who are already receiving benefits, to me is far too drastic, and I would be hard-pressed to think that something like that can happen. Obviously, Social Security is complex, and it's only one piece of a good retirement plan. If you're looking for help planning your retirement, check out the links in the description. I've opened up some slots to speak with folks from the channel, either to point them in the right direction on their own retirement or to offer a second opinion on their current plan. You can book a slot directly from the website. All the information is in the link down below. So this brings me to option number 3. I personally think this is the likely course of action, and that's to raise the full retirement age again. And I say again because they did this once before. This is what Social Security did with its last major reform, which was done 41 years ago in 1983. They started a phased delay in full retirement age. Used to be age 65. Eventually, they would bring it up to age 67 for folks born in 1960. Now, here's the thing about that. They made those changes back in 1983. The folks that were affected by that change haven't even gotten there yet. They won't turn 67 until 2027. When the legislation was passed, they were 23 years old. I'll come back to my point on that in just one second, but it's important to also see the drawback on pushing out the retirement age. Even though I think it's the most likely, the issue with it is this: the majority of folks take Social Security early, and pushing the full retirement age back wouldn't necessarily mean reducing the benefit amount, but it would increase the penalty that folks would receive by drawing the benefits earlier. So if the full retirement age is moved, for example, to 68 or 68 and a half somewhere down the road, you might still be able to elect Social Security at 62, but it would be an even smaller benefit than it is now because you'd be taking it even sooner than the full retirement age. The argument against this is that it penalizes those who need the benefits most, because if you can't work anymore at 62, if you have to claim at 62, you're claiming a lower benefit versus those who may have other means and be able to defer and wait to get their full benefits a little bit later. Now, going back to the changes from 1983, I think we can use this as a guidepost for what might happen next. They made a change that affected people 40 years away from retirement. Most of the people that were impacted by that change, those who are living with a 67-year-old full retirement age, didn't even have the ability to vote in 1983 because they were kids. That's the sort of change that I would expect. I'm hard-pressed to believe that the government would allow existing benefits to be cut because the system runs out of money. And while I could see a tax raise above the current cap as an option, I think that pushing out the full retirement age, again, is probably the most likely scenario. Either way, my guess is that nothing's going to happen anytime soon because we've got 9 years before the system's going to run dry. And while it'd be great to solve the problem now, my guess is we're still going to be talking about this a few years down the road. Now, there's two big things to take away from the video today. One, the system is broken and change is going to have to happen. They can't continue the path that they're on indefinitely. And two, there are only two ways to affect that change. One, raise taxes, or two, alter benefits. Either way, relying on Social Security for a large part of your retirement can be tricky business when you're planning for retirement. While I think that a benefit reduction for anybody close to retirement is probably pretty unlikely, your advisor should be stress testing your plan to see how viable it is should something like that happen. If you're looking for steps on how to structure your own retirement, I won't leave you hanging. I got you covered. Check out this video right here about how to put together a retirement plan for yourself.